For generations, archaeologists believed Jerusalem was hiding one final discovery beneath its ancient hills.
It was great. It was very exciting. The entering into the tomb, which has been cut into rock. It has a central chamber. It has arcosolia benches in the walls for the laying out of bodies.
A royal tomb. Researchers believe they were searching for a royal burial connected to King Solomon himself. Expeditions searched for it beneath the Temple Mount, around the city of David, and inside forgotten underground chambers buried beneath centuries of destruction. But when researchers finally uncovered a sealed structure beneath Jerusalem, the evidence forced them to confront a completely different possibility. Because there was no king inside, no body, no burial. Instead, the structure appeared to serve a purpose historians were not expecting. And the deeper researchers went underground, the more they realized historians may have misunderstood these biblical chambers from the very beginning. The search beneath Jerusalem. Jerusalem is built on layers of civilization. Beneath modern streets lie collapsed tunnels, buried walls, hidden chambers, and structures sealed away by thousands of years of destruction and rebuilding. Archaeologists often describe the city as a living archive, where every excavation reveals another forgotten era beneath the last. Few mysteries have attracted more obsession than the questions surrounding King Solomon. Ancient accounts describe him as a ruler of enormous wealth and influence. But what made Solomon different was not only wealth, it was the scale of what he built. Historical reconstructions suggest his kingdom controlled major trade routes stretching from the Mediterranean to the Red Sea. Ships tied to his empire may have traveled as far as Africa and India, bringing gold, ivory, spices, and exotic materials into Jerusalem. At the center of his legacy stood the first temple. Researchers believe the structure incorporated cedar from Lebanon, precisely cut stonework, and gold-covered interiors designed to project both political authority and religious power. The temple became more than a sacred building. It became the symbolic heart of Solomon's empire. For centuries, explorers believed his burial place had to exist somewhere near the structures he built. Medieval expeditions searched beneath the Temple Mount. 19th century explorers dug through hills surrounding Jerusalem. Modern archaeologists followed fragmented maps, legends, and historical references. Again and again, the searches failed. Some historians eventually questioned whether Solomon's tomb had ever existed in the traditional sense at all. Then, the investigation changed. In the late 20th century and early 2000s, archaeologist Eilat Mazar approached the mystery differently. Instead of treating biblical texts as mythology, she treated them as historical clues. References to royal buildings, administrative zones, and temple-era construction became part of a larger geographical puzzle. Her focus centered on the city of David, the oldest core of Jerusalem. There, beneath accumulated layers of destruction, Mazar uncovered massive fortifications and ancient structures connected to the First Temple period. That discovery proved something critical. Jerusalem still contained major undiscovered history beneath its surface, and once researchers understood that, the direction of modern archaeology changed completely. Teams began combining biblical study with modern technology. Ground-penetrating radar scans later revealed strange underground formations beneath a hillside near the city of David. Long passageways appeared beneath compacted limestone and soil. Some tunnels twisted unnaturally, almost as if they had been engineered to mislead movement underground. At first, researchers assumed they were looking at defensive infrastructure or abandoned passageways. Then, heavy rainfall exposed a shallow depression directly above the anomalies detected by the scans. The location aligned perfectly with the radar data and archival records. For the first time, researchers believed they had uncovered an intentionally concealed entrance. And once excavation began, the underground system started behaving less like a burial site and more like something designed to protect whatever lay deeper inside. The interpretation begins to change. The tunnels immediately alter the tone of the investigation. These were not natural passageways or random underground spaces formed over time. Reports described carefully carved corridors with false turns, narrowing sections, unstable flooring, and dead ends, deliberately positioned to confuse intruders. Some passages forced researchers to move single file. Others ended abruptly in sealed recesses that appeared intentionally misleading. Then the team encountered structural traps. Sections of flooring and ceiling had reportedly been engineered to collapse under pressure. During one incident, shifting stone trapped a junior team member before the crew managed to pull him free. After that moment, the excavation slowed dramatically. Every movement underground now required scanners, structural mapping, and extreme caution. At first, archaeologists believed the defenses existed to protect treasure, but the evidence soon suggested something else. Faded symbols carved into the tunnel walls appeared to function like coded markers. Some resembled geometric patterns. Others matched descriptions associated with temple symbolism connected to Solomon in later traditions. Researchers realized the tunnels were not simply hiding wealth, they were controlling access. Every architectural decision suggested the builders expected future intruders and intentionally designed the underground system to filter, slow, and confuse anyone attempting to reach the chamber beyond. Then the excavation team reached a sealed stone doorway, untouched for thousands of years. When the chamber was finally opened, the discovery stunned everyone inside. At first, nobody spoke. Flashlight beams swept across walls covered in gold. Thin sheets of hammered metal reflected light through the darkness. Shelves held vessels, carved ivory, gemstones, jewelry, and artifacts tied to long-distance trade networks across the ancient world. Then, the flashlight beam reached the center of the room, and everything changed. A 7-branched menorah stood upright in the darkness, matching descriptions associated with the First Temple period. Fragments of silk suggested connections stretching toward India and Africa. For a moment, the chambers stopped feeling real. But one detail changed the meaning of the discovery instantly. There were no human remains anywhere inside the chamber. No burial, no sarcophagus, no evidence that the space had ever been intended as a tomb. That realization changed the excavation instantly. Researchers stopped treating the chamber like hidden treasure storage. Nothing inside the chamber looked accidental. Objects were positioned with precision rather than stored randomly. Every symbol, artifact, and container suggested intentional preservation. Then the researchers focused on the walls. Carvings covered nearly every surface. Geometric symbols, spiral formations, star-shaped seals associated in later traditions with Solomon's mark. Clay tablets stacked in organized sections. At first, the inscriptions appeared to be inventory records. Then researchers realized the writings seemed to preserve technical and ritual knowledge connected to temple design and sacred practices. That changed the investigation completely. The chamber no longer resembled hidden royal wealth. It resembled a vault built to outlive catastrophe. A deliberate attempt to preserve sacred knowledge beneath Jerusalem during a period when invasion, destruction, or political collapse may have threatened the survival of temple traditions themselves. And the deeper researchers examined the chamber, the clearer the pattern became. The underground system had not been designed to protect a dead king. It had been designed to protect what the king's civilization knew.
The real purpose of the chamber. In the final stage of the investigation, researchers focused on one question. Why would ancient builders create an underground system this complex if the goal was only to hide treasure? The answer emerging from the evidence was far more significant. The chamber functioned less like a tomb and more like a containment site for knowledge. The defensive tunnels, the misleading corridors, the collapse traps, the coded symbols, the carefully arranged artifacts. Everything pointed toward deliberate preservation rather than burial. Researchers concluded the builders understood something fundamental. Kingdoms collapse, cities burn, temples fall, empires disappear. But protected knowledge can survive if it is hidden well enough.
That realization forced historians to reconsider centuries of assumptions about hidden biblical chambers beneath Jerusalem. For generations, explorers searched for royal tombs, but the evidence now suggests many of these underground structures may have served an entirely different purpose. Not burial sites, preservation sites, places where sacred objects, ritual systems, temple records, and protected knowledge could survive invasion, political upheaval, and religious destruction. And that interpretation finally explains something historians struggled with for centuries: why so many searches for Solomon's tomb ended in failure. Because researchers may have been searching for the wrong thing from the very beginning. The underground chambers connected to Solomon's era were never designed to glorify death. They were engineered to preserve continuity, to carry sacred authority, ritual knowledge, and religious tradition through periods of catastrophe. Researchers now believe the chamber was designed to preserve sacred knowledge through periods of collapse and invasion. But historians still cannot fully explain who ordered its construction, or how many similar chambers may still exist beneath Jerusalem. What archaeologists uncovered beneath Jerusalem was not a tomb at all. It was a system designed to preserve something historians still struggle to fully explain. And that may be why the chamber was hidden so carefully for thousands of years. If you enjoyed this investigation, subscribe and leave a comment with your theory. Because if one chamber survived beneath Jerusalem for thousands of years, others may still be waiting.